Mark had been on the road for hours. The highway stretched endlessly in front of him, swallowed by the night and the thick fog that clung to the ground. His old car rattled with every bump, the dashboard lights glowing weakly. He rubbed his eyes, fighting off exhaustion, when he noticed something unusual ahead. A faded wooden sign, barely visible through the mist. The peeling letters read, "Welcome to Ashfield." He frowned. He had never heard of a town called Ashfield. Still, the fog was so heavy that he thought turning in might be safer than staying on the highway. He slowed the car and followed the narrow road that led into the town. Almost immediately, the silence struck him. There were no lights in the houses, no movement in the streets. The buildings looked abandoned, their windows shattered or covered with vines, doors hanging loosely from broken hinges. The air felt heavy, pressing down on his chest. Mark parked the car near the square and stepped out, his shoes crunching on cracked pavement. At the center of the square stood a fountain, its stone surface chipped and dry. Around it, scattered in strange positions, were mannequins. Dozens of them. Some were standing, others sitting, a few leaning against the fountain like they were frozen mid-conversation. Mark's heart skipped. He walked closer, his footsteps echoing. The mannequins looked old, their surfaces cracked and faded, but there was something disturbingly human about their poses. One had its head tilted slightly, as if watching him. Another seemed to be pointing into the fog. He stopped, uneasy. The silence was overwhelming, broken only by the faint creak of a nearby sign swaying in the breeze. Mark glanced around, suddenly aware that every mannequin seemed to be facing his direction. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, but when he looked again, it was undeniable. They had all turned toward him. His breath caught in his throat. He stepped back, the hair on his arms rising. For the first time in years, Mark felt truly afraid. Something about this place was wrong, completely wrong. And yet, despite the fear crawling up his spine, he couldn't shake the feeling that the town had been waiting for him. Mark's first instinct was to run, but the mannequins stood perfectly still, their eyeless faces tilted toward the center of town. It was as though they were pointing him somewhere. Against his better judgment, he followed. The fog thickened as he entered the town square. In the center loomed a fountain, long, dry, its stone statue chipped and weathered. Around it, mannequins gathered in circles, posed as if attending a sermon. Their cracked mouths were parted slightly, frozen mid-whisper. Mark's pulse thundered. The silence pressed on his ears until a sound broke through, low, vibrating, almost like chanting. At first, he thought it was the wind, then it grew louder, a chorus of whispers overlapping, weaving into one another. He spun in circles, trying to locate the source. That was when the mannequins moved. Their heads turned, all at once, snapping toward him. Their stiff arms twitched, as if pulled by invisible strings. The whispers swelled, words bleeding through. "Come back, you belong, stay." Mark stumbled backward, colliding with the fountain. And then he saw it. From behind the statue emerged something tall and skeletal. Unlike the mannequins, this one was alive, or at least it moved. Its skin stretched tight over its frame, ghostly pale. Most horrifying of all, its mouth was sewn shut with thick black stitches, the skin puckered and torn around the threads. It tilted its head slowly, studying him with empty eyes. Mark's legs carried him before his mind caught up. He ran, dodging mannequins as they lurched stiffly toward him. The whispers chased him, rising in pitch until they rattled inside his skull. He didn't stop until he reached a tall building at the end of the square. A crooked sign swayed in the misty air. Ashfield Inn. The inn's doors loomed before him, old glass reflecting only his own pale, frantic face. Behind him, the mannequins were closing in.
The stitched figure was following slowly, deliberately, its head tilting, as if savoring the moment. Mark didn't hesitate. He shoved the doors open and stepped inside.
The door slammed shut behind Mark, sealing him inside the Ashfield Inn. The air smelled of mildew and something metallic, rust or blood. A dusty chandelier swung faintly above the lobby, its light bulb flickering weakly, barely illuminating the peeling wallpaper and broken furniture. Mark tried to calm his breathing. His footsteps echoed too loudly as he crossed the warped floorboards. Behind the front desk lay an old guest book, its pages yellowed and brittle. He opened it with trembling hands, brushing dust away. The entries chilled him. They stopped abruptly in 1987, names scribbled hastily in the final pages. The last entry read only, "Don't stay past midnight." Mark's stomach twisted. He looked toward the lobby clock. It was already 11:43. Something creaked above. A soft dragging sound followed, as though something heavy was crawling across the floorboards upstairs. Dust sifted down from the ceiling, landing on the desk. Mark swallowed hard, forcing himself to move toward the staircase. The steps groaned under his weight. Each creak echoed like a gunshot in the silence. At the top, a hallway stretched into darkness, lined with doors on either side. One door stood slightly ajar, light spilling faintly through the crack. Mark approached slowly. When he pushed it open, the room inside was untouched, like a perfect snapshot of the past. A suitcase sat half-packed on the bed, clothes spilling out. A woman's purse rested on the nightstand. He stepped closer, reaching for a framed photo. The picture showed a family, a man, woman, and young girl. But the faces were smeared, faded as though erased deliberately. A whisper floated through the room. "Stay." Mark froze. The sound came from the closet. He turned slowly as the door rattled, hinges squealing. Then, with a sudden crash, closet burst open. Dozens of mannequin arms spilled out, grasping blindly, clawing toward him. Their fingers scraped across his skin, pulling, dragging him closer. Mark fought desperately, tearing free, stumbling backwards into the hall. The whispering grew into a chorus, swelling from every direction. The clock downstairs chimed once. Midnight. And from the end of the hallway, the stitched-mouth figure emerged, crawling on all fours like a spider. Its sewn lips trembled as it released a guttural sound, muffled but furious. Mark ran. The hallway seemed endless as Mark sprinted, doors slamming shut around him as though the inn itself was alive. The stitched figure chased him, its body jerking unnaturally, each movement too fast, too sharp. He burst into another room, slamming the door behind him. His chest heaved as he scanned the space. A cracked mirror hung on the wall, its surface reflecting not only himself, but also dozens of shadowy figures standing behind him. He spun, but the room was empty. The whispers clawed at his ears. "You belong here. Never leave. Join us." The mirror pulsed like water, his reflection twisted, showing him as a mannequin, eyeless, smiling grotesquely. He staggered back, grabbing a chair and hurling it at the glass. The mirror shattered, shards raining down like icy rain. The stitched figure's muffled scream tore through the air. The inn shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling as lights flickered out one by one. Mark bolted from the room, racing down the stairs. The mannequins were waiting in the lobby. They stood in neat rows now, blocking the doors, their heads tilted in eerie unison. Mark's heart pounded. He looked around desperately and then saw the back exit doors swinging open, as though inviting him. He ran toward it, shoving through mannequins as their hands reached for him. The stitched figure screamed again, closer now, the sound vibrating in his skull. Mark pushed harder, nearly tripping as he slammed through the back door. Outside, the fog wrapped around him instantly. The town square loomed again,
mannequins still frozen around the fountain, but now their heads turned as one, tracking his every move. Mark didn't stop. He sprinted to his car, fumbling with his keys. The engine roared to life. Mark slammed his foot down, tires screeching as he sped away. The fog clawed at the car, but the road appeared again, stretching endlessly into the night. Only when the town vanished behind him did the whispers fade. Mark's hands trembled on the wheel. He didn't dare look in the rearview mirror. But if he had, he would have seen it. One mannequin sitting silently in the back seat.